you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Folks, it's Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are at least things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, for 16 years and over 2,300 episodes, we bring you the Chris Voss Show. And we're really tired. But you could really help us not be tired by referring the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his hot new book that he's put out that can help make your life better. It's called All Your Best Selves, How the Performing Arts Toolkit Can Help You Thrive Anytime, Any Place, and with Anyone. Out March 15th, 2022. J.J.R. Taylor is the author's show. We're going to be talking with him today about his insights, or otherwise known as Jim Rojas Taylor, that we'll be chatting with. And we're going to get into some of the deets on him, his experience, his life, etc., etc. Jim is a first-generation American born and raised in New Jersey for the first decade of his life, then moved to Alabama, which he has left and returned to a few times. He served 6 years in the U.S. Marine Corps and found himself turned into an actor in an unplanned voice lesson. He spent over 20 years as an actor, and in that time became a playwright, screenwriter, producer, and author, among other roles in life taken in the pursuit of life. The latest and so far most important venture is to get this idea behind his book, All Your Best Selves, to teach emotional and mental literacy to the world. Welcome to the show, Jim. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it, Chris.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. I feel like it's a great privilege to be on here. It's my biggest podcast so far, so I'm moving up a little.
It's a privilege to have you, though. You got your book out. Give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
There's really two places. One is my website. It's www.tbcenterprises.com. That's TBC like Tango Bravo Charlie. And also you can buy my book on Amazon.com. Just look for All Your Best Selves. But on social media as well. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook under the name Soy Candy, SOICANDIE.
So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside your new book.
Basically, what this information is, it comes from about 100 years ago. And just stepping right outside of that, if you look at the 2,500 years of Western acting going back to the Greeks, the first 2,100 years is what people think acting still is. It's pretend, masking, representation. Over the next 300 years, like during the Victorian Shakespearean era, it moved to naturalism. Over the last 100 years, with the advent of this Russian cat named Konstantin Stanislavski, he made it philosophical. It's not about pretending. It's about being, becoming. And I'm simply making the argument that these masters who came from him created the chisels, the hammers, the tools, the things we need to polish the marvel that is their art. Their art just happened to be the human mind and emotions. And I'm saying that they never realized the applications, because the literal fact is we don't have a mind and emotions for the stage and one for real life. So if they are at the point where we're teaching actors how to use real emotions in imaginary circumstances, how to build a real working mindset for the stage, why aren't we teaching everyone else these tools?
There's a lot of people that act on Instagram, they act on social media. Sometimes they act in real life. I had a gentleman on recently who was autistic and on the spectrum, and he was telling me that the way he gets through things is he wears a mask, which is kind of interesting. He basically acts out a part, and it helps him, function with the rest of us folks who aren't autistic and on the spectrum and aren't savants. That's kind of interesting. So tell us how we can utilize acting skills to get through life.
All right, there's this one. The one I use the most is called the Stanislavski system, and this is created by Konstantin Stanislavski. And I want you to think of it like this. A submarine can't see what's going on, can it? It gets its situational awareness from a ping. It uses sonar, shoots out a ping that tells it where other subs are, where ships on the surface are, where whales are, where the ground is. These 7 questions in the system act the same way. As an actor, we use them to ground ourselves, to ground our character in the moment so we can make the best possible choices we can. I'm saying we can do the same thing in life. Here they are. Number 1, who am I? This is the moment in relation to you. Number 2, where am I? This is the moment in relation to the environment you're in. Number 3, when is it? This is the moment in relation to time. Number 4, what do I want? This is the moment in relation to purpose. Number 5, why do I want it? This is the moment in relation to desire. Number 6, how do I get it? This is the moment in relation to action. And number 7, what's in my way? This is the moment in relation to obstacles. Like, these are acting questions, but these are life questions as well. How many people have asked, what do you want? I don't know. Never thought about it. You know?
It's funny, most people have never sat down and thought about what they want, right? It's interesting how they haven't crossed that.
We're not taught to think that way. If you look at and I can't speak for the world, but the American education system, we're programmed. For 12 years, we're programmed to essentially think and act and behave the same way. We got to follow these rules, pass these tests, and then we succeed and become a functioning piece of society. These rules, or not these rules, but these tools and techniques are designed to find your most authentic self by asking the questions, kind of like that Jungian concept of self-actualization. These are the questions you ask yourself to discover who you are. And what I'm saying is, if you can take these things, you can develop yourself in multiple different ways. So you can create multiple versions of yourself. It's kind of like that idea of multiple universes where there's different versions of you that took different choices. What I'm saying is you can take these tools and techniques, pull all those versions into your own mind, and now have a plethora of choices that you can choose from in the moment so you can make the best possible choices for you in that moment.
It's something that people need to figure out. Sometimes you go into situations you don't like, right? Is that mostly what you might use this for? Situations where, maybe being yourself isn't the best move to make, maybe a job hire, maybe dating.
Absolutely. Like a job interview. How many people go into job interviews for the first time when they walk in the door? I'm going to have that well rehearsed. I'm going to think about questions they could ask, questions I could ask, what I bring to the table, what other people bring to the table. So it's a question of doing your work and acting. It's kind of like in real life, people have insecurities. In the acting world, we call that stage fright. You have stage fright because you haven't answered all the questions. You haven't known all your points. You don't know you're blocking. There's still holes left in there. So you don't know what to do in those holes. If you fill those holes out, you don't have stage fright. The same thing in life. If you take the moment before you go any situation, I mean, granted, it goes into interviews. But this works in all kinds of stuff. Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of that concept, the it factor?
Yeah.
Can you explain it? Can you describe it?
People have the or I don't know what the French word is, but they have that version of where they're at the right moment at the right time, they're hitting the mark at the right moment. Sometimes everything seems to fall in line for that type of person.
Okay. This is what I mean by putting language to it and giving literacy to it. I'm going to give 5 skills. What I'm saying is if you take these 5 skills, and I'm not saying they're absolute, I'm just saying these 5 skills, you put them together, you will exude that idea of the it factor.
Oh, wow.
Number 1, active listening. That's listening to someone else with intent to absorb what they're saying, not just listening to reply, taking them within you to the point where you can understand what they're really going through, to empathize with them. Number 2, charm, having charisma or magnetism. That's what draws people to you, that personality trait that kind of just, makes people want to be next to you. Number 3 is intensity. That's your ability to control your passion. Your passion is like flavored energy. It's this energy that you have, but there's different flavored energy. That's how I see it. Yeah, that's how I see emotions. But intensity is the ability to control it and have it do work for you. Number 4 is generosity. That's being so full of yourself, not in the bad way, in the way that you've explored yourself to where you're in a moment talking to someone, you're trying to give to them in that moment to make it richer and fuller for them as well. And number 5 is poise. It's like being on the red carpet and knowing how to make your body doing gestures and positions to do work for you. So that's what I'm saying. If we can break it down, we can teach it. Now, if you need to go into a negotiation, an interview, a presentation, you can turn on the it factor, turn it on and off like actors do. We turn on these personalities on and off. So all you got to do is do the time, do the work. Boom. Now you got a new skill.
I mean, I kind of do a little bit of that on the show. People always ask me that when they're hanging out with me and I ask questions about them because I'm curious about people, and or on like first dates, and people will be like, I don't know whether you're in podcast mode or whether you're in, this is the real Chris Voss because you have a personality online. And so it's kind of funny, but I'm like, no, I'm genuinely interested in people. Just because I'm asking you questions doesn't mean I'm in podcast mode.
But the thing is, they're both really you. It's not one's the real you and the other isn't. And there's a reason why. And this is the difference between masking and being. And this is what Stanislavski changed. Most people, have you ever heard of the term code switching?
Code switching? Code
switching is a linguistics term. But what essentially is in the cultural behavior, it's like when a kid from an urban neighborhood gets a job, like in a golf club in an affluent place. So he's got to change the way he behaves, the way he talks to fit into that new environment. That's something that when I'm talking about here is kind of like hyper code switching. There are people who do it just to fit in. There are people who absorb themselves into the environment and culture and become a part of it. Now, if you do that, now you're in that world. You're not just putting on a facade. You can answer the questions being in it. And that's what I'm saying at this point, because people hit me up all the time, because my crazy thing is this idea derives all the way back from when I was 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, my parents took me to midnight mass. And for whatever reason, the concept of eternity hit me, freaked me out. I realized there's no end. There could be no middle. If there's no middle, it's just a perpetual beginning. So 10,000 eons from now, even though I didn't understand the scope of time, I would still exist. And what freaked me out was, what am I going to do with forever once I've done everything many times over? Boredom got to me. How do I exist in the never ending, nothing left to do? So I regressed inside my mind and I started creating these programs. I refer to them as my suits and bubbles. My suits were basically, like I said, active listening. I would listen to whoever I was talking to absorb everything they had mentally and emotionally to recreate them as myself. My bubbles were like the holodeck in the Star Trek universe. Have you seen Star Trek?
Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with
It's like the holodeck. It can be anytime, any place, anywhere. So I would put these suits inside these bubbles. And what I didn't realize as a child, I was giving myself a place in my mind to work. And that's where I went from. So I started creating all these versions. But now people are like, oh, which one's you? And I'm like, they're all me, brother. I filled them out. I grew out it's kind of like you're playing a video game and you max out all the skills. That's what I've been doing. I've been going my whole life, maxing out all these versions of me. And now I'm just this grandiose thing.
And I think as you progress through life and you master these things and being different people to different things, like certainly when I'm in leadership mode, I'm kind of different than I am when I'm in podcast mode. When I'm in empathy mode, I'm kind of a little different. You kind of master these things and getting good at them. When I'm speaking, it's a little bit different. There's probably a bit more pompous, sort of, I don't know if pompous is the right word, basically, jacked up energy, all that sort of good stuff. But really what you're saying is these are all features of us and how to bring out maybe the best in our different aspects of our personality.
I mean, you hope for the best, but honestly, it brings them all out. It's how you use them. So you could literally use these to bring out the worst qualities as well. I don't push towards that or recommend it, but it is a path. I can't not say that. To me, the way I see it is like this, because the pushback I get the most is like, why do I need acting tools in my life? And the best way I can analogize it is, let's say I got a screwdriver, right? And I'm taking the screwdriver and I'm screwing apart on a toy Tonka truck. And my buddy's, man, I got to get this panel off my truck. I don't know how to get it out. I'm like, here, take the screwdriver. And he's like, why would I want that screwdriver? It's what you use for toys. So I'm saying, taking the acting thing, toss it completely aside and put this education, and we change the world. Because if you consider this, when we gave written literacy, reading and writing to the masses, changed the world. When we gave numerical literacy, mathematics to the masses, it changed the world. So by that logic, why wouldn't it change the world if we gave a systemic, teachable way to give mental and emotional literacy to the world? Why wouldn't it change it?
Yeah. Yeah, why wouldn't it change it? So tell us a little bit about you, yourself, your upbringing, et cetera, et cetera. How did you grow up? How did you get into acting, in your words? And, of course, eventually you decide to write the book. Absolutely.
It was a wild ride because people ask me my goals. I don't have goals. I just look at the next step in front of my feet. Like I said, when I came out as a child creating these programs, it got me to the point where I was a sponge. I just started absorbing the world. So whenever I got into something interesting, I just dove into it. My first, taste of acting was Theater 1 in the freshman year of high school, but it didn't last long. I got kicked out after 6 weeks and sent to JROTC, and that kind of, helped lead me to the Marine Corps.
Oh.
I did 6 years in the Marine Corps, 5 active, 1 reserve. Oh. But when I got out, my first job was working at a Lone Star Steakhouse in Huntsville, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was honorary, just dumb jarhead. And I was rolling silverware at the end of my shift, and there was a couple other girls over there, and one was going on about her voice lessons, and I was in ball breaking mode. So I was like, come on, you want to talk about voice lessons? It's hard? Let me talk to you about hard, girl. And then as soon as I snipped at her, she just stood up and fired back. She said, I bet you couldn't do 3 weeks, soldier boy. And I was kind of taken aback by her fire, you know? So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take a challenge. I'm going to go take 6 weeks of voice lessons. So I instantly went and found a voice coach just to, you know, I guess assert my dominance. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I did it. But after the first class, I forgot about the bet challenge, whatever. Uh-huh. The way this guy handled me and just made me sound was just shocking to me. And then he was like, hey, can I interest you in doing a chorus? And he took a little bit of work to make me do it, but he got me into a chorus where I was singing with the group, so it was easy. Then when I was in the chorus, there was the group that was doing the chorus was doing a play called Pocahontas, or a musical rather. Mm-hmm. And the character Thundercloud, they had went through 4 or 6 people had dropped out, and they needed somebody within 2 weeks to do the show. So they got me to do it. Oh. And then I just started getting into it. I mean, I started auditioning and booking parts. Like my first 2 years, I did 30 credits. And then after that, in 2005, I went to New York. So from 2005 to 2007, I was in New York. I started working up there. I wrote, produced, and performed my own play. And from the moment I wrote the first line of the play till the day we closed, 5 months had passed, maybe 5.5. And it blew so many people away because they were like, how did you do that so fast? And my answer was, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to. I didn't have any of the stuff to block me because I wasn't mentally put that way. I was just looking for what I needed to do next. But that got me an audition for my first principal role in a SAG film called Hunger. Mm-hmm. And that brought me back, because I was in New York at the time, but that brought me back to Huntsville, Alabama, because 5 states who did the film filmed it in Huntsville, Alabama, which was ironic, funny.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I came back here after I got the part, and then I kind of got stuck down here. And actually, when I was doing the film, this is where the poignant part was. There was a moment that I call my quickening moment. I was in a scene with, have you ever seen the 90s Mortal Kombat films?
No.
There was this actor who played the first Johnny Cage, Lyndon Ashby, and I was doing a scene opposite him. Now, in moments like this, they film one actor at a time. So when I was filming his scene, he was on camera. I wasn't. But when they yelled cut, he reached over and shook my hand like I pulled his kid out of a fire. I didn't get it at the point. Wow. But what had happened was, because even though I wasn't in my character, Alex, my lifestyle that I was living kept me present in the moment. So when I was delivering my lines, even though they were out of character, they were still giving to him as an actor. Because what happens in those moments is that the person who is off camera is just blah, blah, blahing their lines. That's not giving to your scene partner. That's not allowing them the best possible performances that they can make, because it has an effect. Mm-hmm. So that's what he was thanking me for. But when I realized that several weeks later, it was, like I said, I leveled up. That's when I realized that this is something big. I didn't realize it was a mental and emotional literacy at the time, but I knew it was much bigger than just this, because it was a way to teach this stuff. So that's what kind of got me to there. Then after that, a couple years after, that's when I started writing the book. And then the book kind of floundered a little bit. I mean, it came out in 2001, so it's been a couple years, but it's just trying to find my voice and find advocacy, because, I mean, I'll admit it, man. I'm not the guy who should have this idea. I tripped over it. I'm not the hero this idea needs. I'm the hobo it has, but I'm going to carry it as best I can, you know?
Yeah. And so you decide to write the book. You write the book. And what were your thoughts as you were writing the book?
Man, it was rough. Literally, while I was writing the book, I was working as a mail carrier. So I'm driving down the road, writing notes on my phone or with a laptop in my lap, trying to deliver mail while I'm writing it. But again, I didn't have a goal to be a writer. I don't want to be a writer. I just saw a post on Facebook, write a book, yada, yada. And I jumped on it, and I was thinking, what ideas do I have? And that's when I realized I got this big idea. I should write about it. So that's when I started putting it down on paper. But the most valuable thing about writing the book was finding all the science that I found, all the stuff to support it. Because at first I thought this was just an idea that had nothing based on it other than what I'm saying. But when I started looking into it, I found that there's trauma drama out there who uses acting tools and techniques for teens that are dealing with trauma in a certain way. So let's say if a teen has dealt with certain kind of trauma, they will work them through acting techniques in a different kind of trauma, so they can develop the tools and techniques to work with trauma. That way they can later take those tools and techniques to their trauma, so they don't have to work through their own trauma. There's also psychodrama. It's now called psychotherapy. But in the 1950s, Dr. Joseph Levy Moreno created psychodrama by taking acting tools and techniques and putting in a group therapy session. And it was just like that, along with the colleges and universities where this is going on. Autism. Sense Theater teaches autistic kids using tools and techniques of acting by pulling back the curtain. So it's teaching them how social situations work so they don't have to pick up on social cues from other people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I said, there's so many applications about, because again, everything we do, we use our mind and emotions. We just don't realize it. It's just we've never had the literacy. And two, think about this. When it comes to spending, like the 1%, the billionaire class, think tanks, they're spending billions upon billions of dollars to understand how human beings think, behave, act. That way they can influence how we vote, how we spend, to make us do what they want to do. If we learn mental and emotional literacy, we negate all their work, because the only reason they can do it is because we don't. If you don't know how to read, somebody can cheat you on a contract. It's like going to a foreign country. If you don't know their money, if you don't understand the literacy, you can get screwed out of your money. It's the same way with mental and emotional literacy. If you don't have it, who is messing with you right now?
Yep. Who's messing with you right now? And now, do you do consulting? Do you do coaching? Do you help people walk through the stuff in the book, or is it still new on the book?
It's still new. Like I said, I mean, I have done it, but not professionally, because like I said, I ain't the guy. I'm a high school dropout, you know? I mean, even though I have all this knowledge and I can talk to it with the best of them, I don't have like credentials or advocacy. I'm just a guy who tripped over this amazing idea. And like I said, everywhere I've done 26. This is the 26th podcast interview I've done since February 6th. Brand new for me. But every question I've been hit, I've been able to come back with an answer and explain in multiple different ways how this stuff can help. Because like I said, this is going to level up humanity. I'm trying to find the right words to deliver it.
I think you have. You've written a book. You're getting the message out there. You know, there's plenty of high school dropouts that have become successful coaches and help other people. I barely graduated high school and started my first company at 18. There's no reason, you know, you're not, you know, there's nothing that says just because you're from high school that you can't do these successful things. So I think there's a lot of things that you can do to help people with this. I can see how this can really apply to a lot of people in a lot of different lives.
Oh, absolutely. Just like I said, if you go into things like negotiation, or here's another thing, adolescence. All of us go through adolescence. Why aren't we teaching kids in primary school how to emotionally regulate so when they hit junior high, they don't get crushed with that emotional feeling of adolescence? That's one method right there that we can use to teach these kids. I mean, we're teaching them we're teaching them math and reading. All we got to do is add this in there, and just as a humanity.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we need to teach kids that we don't teach them, and then we teach them a whole lot of bullshit they really don't need. You know, things like, you know, algebra and trigonometry. I mean, seriously, the only people who should do that are the people that are really tuned in to numbers and math. And they should learn skills, you know, like credit reports and how to be a good person and how to sustain a marriage, how to raise children, things of that nature.
If I could, real quick, now that you said skills, one of the things that I refer to, and it's in my book, is I refer to the third part as the intangible toolbox, and it shows tools and techniques that the actors have. But there's a bunch of soft skills that are learned either directly through these techniques or as a byproduct. And like I said, these are all teachable. Presence, situational awareness, initiative, grit, projection, wit, breeziness, motivation, emotional regulation, empathy, critical thinking, teamwork, public speaking, problem solving, creativity, listening, independence, mindfulness, preparation, organization, goal orientation, interpersonal skills, communication. Like I said, these are all things we need in life, but I've never seen them all just compacted in one arena that could be taught. It's like skills we have to search for or trip over, find along the way. So if we put them all concentrated together, we're saving kids time in their life. And people who don't know how to do it now at any age can pick it up now and learn it and use it actionably in the moment.
So there's 3 acting masters, I believe, that you pull from and break them down and talk in the arenas of acting. Tell us about those 3 individuals.
Absolutely. The first one is Konstantin Stanislavski, and he's regarded as the father of acting. He's the one I was telling you that the Stanislavski came from. And he had a unique situation because actors are not really regarded, especially in that time frame, as rich. But he came from a rich family, so he had his own theater. And that's what helped him basically create this system because he essentially had his own incubator. He had endless amounts of money to create. And I mean, there's stories that he was kind of a little crazy with it, because he wanted exactly what he wanted, but it was all his thing, funded his way. That allowed him to create these systems and put them out there. And then from him was born the group theater. The group theater existed in New York City, and that's where method acting comes from, the American method. Sanford Meisner was among them. Now, if you look at acting, there's different styles. There's outside in and inside out. Inside out is working from the inside going out. Outside in is just the reverse. Stanislavski is inside out. Work for the inside, work exterior, go to exterior. Meisner was outside in. So he's working with outside stimuli and working in. So his thing was behavior. So if you're talking to someone else, you're not focusing on the words. You're focusing on the outside stimuli, like their behavior, how they're acting. And that lets you learn how to read behavior, which, again, is another skill. We should be able to read behavior as human beings because we live in a deceptive world. If you're in negotiations, if you're bartering, stuff like that, it helps to learn to see if someone's, got a card up their sleeve. And the third one is Uta Hagen. She comes a little later, but she wasn't in the group theater, and she's also really big into improv as well. But she created her own system that's very similar to Stanislavski's that is used to break down the character and to understand the little separate elements of the character, which, again, the character being us, it lets us learn separate elements of us.
There you go. And you develop more of your personality, who you are. You take a hard look of who you are and everything else. What do you hope people come away with as they read your book?
A couple things to realize that, because we have that mentality we can't change, especially older folks. I can't change. This is what I am, blah, blah. You can change. Anybody can change. You just need the tools and techniques to change and the willingness and the discipline. So one, that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are. If you feel that urge inside you that something isn't right and you want to be a different way, find the tools and techniques to help you change, to invoke that change. And two is just to be curious, because that's what helps us through life. Curiosity, it's a double-edged sword. Curiosity killed the cat, so you got to be careful. But it's great to be curious because it brings more of outside what's in the world into you, and that helps grow you. Because the more that you absorb into you is the more you become, as long as you take it seriously, take it to heart.
Any future plans that you have, a newsletter maybe that people can join, or maybe consulting or coaching here coming up that people can watch out for in the future, projects you're working on? I'm
still learning. I'm doing the social media thing. I'm taking it a step at a time just because it's been so fast. I wasn't expecting the podcasting to hit so hard for me, but I definitely want to do that. I may very well start my own podcast host show myself, but right now I'm just baby stepping into it. And just I guess the next step right now would be just, if you look at my website, I have some video productions that I'm doing, just small miniature work stuff, but it's something to put out there.
As we go out, give people your final thoughts on the book, where to pick it up, where to stay in touch with you if they have questions, where to reach out, Annie.coms, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, www.tbcenterprises.com. That is my website. You can go on there. You can see all the projects I'm working on. You can see the podcasts that I've done on so far. Also, Amazon.com. If you check out my book, All Your Best Selves, it's on there for sale. And like I said, it's broken down into 3 parts. The first part is my life, my autobiography in relation to the book. The second one talks about the idea and basically the science that supports it. And the third part, which is the biggest part, is the intangible toolbox, where it breaks down the 3 masters, Stanislavski, Meisner, and Hagen, along with improv techniques. And it shows you how we use them as actors alongside how you can use them in life with exercises.
Thank you very much, Jim, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. Like I said, this is all new for me, but I feel like it's important work. I'm just trying to do the best I can by it.
I think you're doing great. Get the coaching and the consulting together, the newsletter, the podcast, all that stuff, and you're going to be supporting this book and kicking ass, taking names.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to my audience for tuning in. Order the book wherever fine books are sold. All Your Best Selves, How the Performing Arts Toolkit Can Help You Thrive Anytime, Any Place, with Anyone. Out March 15th. 2022, under author name J.J.R. Taylor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. That should have us out.